When large jobs require moving massive amounts of snow, get the work done quickly and efficiently with the Western Pile Driver and all-new Pile Driver XL pusher plows, both featuring Trace Edge technology. These pushers scrape down to the pavement with an advanced cutting-edge system that has independent 2-foot sections that move vertically, oscillate, and trip. Get more jobs done faster with the Western Pile Driver lineup of pusher plows.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode.
Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. I've got with me special guest Robin Munshaw, Director of ELD, Entrepreneurial Leadership Development, and my favorite monthly co-host, David Lundquist, Pastor David Lundquist. Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you guys.
It is.
That's good. It's good. It's good to see you too. It's almost Thanksgiving. We've got some happiness in the air. A lot to be thankful for.
Lots to be thankful for.
Share with us, what is ELD? What is Entrepreneurial Leadership Development? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? We exist really to help extend the kingdom of God. And don't know how far this is going to get out there in the cyber world as it goes, because we are really trying to work in countries where those kind of things we don't lead with that, but that's really the bottom line of why we do. And it really started out in as a result of living in Uganda for a little bit, David. We lived there for a little bit, and while there, we saw 1,000 churches planted. Fast forward, about 8 years, I went back and talked to the leadership of that church planting movement, and I said, "How are those churches doing?" And he said, "Well, they're all gone." I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, all of the funds came from the outside and they went to support pastors for 2 years. And once those funds dried up, the pastors got discouraged. They were planting in places that were impoverished, and the local communities economically could not support these churches, and they're all gone." And I thought that is one of the greatest tragedies, that if local church planting movements are dependent on resources from the outside, it's not going to be sustainable. So this is that answer, really, is how can we help create local and sustainable church planting movements? It's going to happen at the local level where they can support their own pastors, or pastors can support themselves economically and support their families. So that's what it is. That's what we do. And we train people to think like an entrepreneur, to solve problems in their community through a business or a product or a service, because that's what a business does. And you know what? They can do it. They can do it. And just like here, businesses fail, but we can mitigate against failure by thinking and proper planning and looking at what can solve the problem at the local level. And it's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's while you were talking there, I was just thinking, whenever there's outside support like that, I think it's human nature for us to kind of get lazy. I was just thinking that, you can look at Europe and so many of the countries that, supported, say, like the church, like I know, like the church in Sweden, got supported by the state. And what was the result? The church died. People got lazy because all of a sudden it was like, well, we don't have to really be on that cutting edge. We don't have to be, thinking about how we survive. And I think that happens, business wise, if you get support. I think family wise, if there's money coming in, you get lazy,
Hmm.
and with the church too, if it's outside support, while I think it's good, maybe seed money might be
Yeah.
fine. But I think what you guys are doing, and that is, teaching people how to fish,
Yeah.
so to speak, is the way to go.
Yeah, and it's really special. I mean, overseas when we're doing our thing, those people want to be the answer to meet their social needs. Not
Yeah,
the UN, not the World Bank, not short-term mission teams coming from the West and say, "Oh, look at these people, let's solve their problems." They can do it, and they want to do it. They want to have that dignity and joy to
sure.
do so, and not for us to steal that privilege from them. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what you're doing is you're teaching individuals how to be business owners in East African countries or country.
Yeah, so we're in multiple places. We're in India where we teach promising church planters and missionaries how to use business to either get into a country or to support themselves or to teach their local people how to succeed in business. The people who are coming to Christ there are some of the poorest in India. They're called the Dalit or the Untouchables, and we've been asked to help bring that thinking through church leaders so that those people who are coming can prosper. We're also in a couple of African countries: Uganda, Kenya. We've been in Rwanda, Malawi. We've been down to South Africa. We're also in a closed country. Let's just say that because we want to get back there.
Yeah.
But we're in a closed country, and one of our guys who's there in near the Himalayas, he's now the top egg producer in the nation, and he's a pastor, and they're able to create a place of worship that will allow others to gather. There are no churches in this country. All right, you can't get in there as a missionary, but the door's been open for us. Bring this training and bring it to the Buddhists and help support the
Robin,
Christians. And then we
tell
also
us.
do it locally. Lastly, we do it locally
Yeah.
because there's people here who want to fulfill their dream, and they come, from the South American countries. So it's very special to do that.
Tell us the story of the egg producer, because
Oh
I've heard
man.
you share that a little bit, and I think it's a great story.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So this guy went through the training, didn't know what the word entrepreneur was. Brilliant young man. Goes home, and he and his dad are pastors. But as I mentioned, there are no church buildings, so they're meeting in a barn that they're renting. And then the owner says, "Wow, thank you for the upgrades you did to my barn. We're going to kick you out." So he's like, "Dad, we got to start a business. We have to be able to support ourselves." And so he did. He started with his business idea, which is the same one he pitched in the classroom. He
Hmm.
started with 150 chickens. Well, he learned the ropes of business, and he gets up to 500, 800, 1,000. He's now up to 10,000 chickens. And but what's special about it is before he could start his business, he had to go ask permission from the local monks to say, "I'm starting this business. Do you give me permission?" They did. And he says, "If you do, I'll give you free manure." And so they said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so now the monks, their produce is so bountiful, they're giving him back um, produce as a way to say thank you. So the credibility of business within a community like that, to say that Christians can actually bring value to a community. They're not some Western cult that's come in and they're trying to infiltrate our customs and traditions, but they love the country. He hangs a flag or flies a flag double the size of any of his neighbors when it's the national holiday. And they're like, "Okay, this guy loves country and he happens to be a follower of Jesus. We can respect that." So that's phenomenal how business can open a way of credibility. It's like Joseph in Egypt, right? How his business sense allowed for the Pharaoh to say, "Wow, you'll be second in command here." I mean, it's a big deal when you are leading with integrity in business and then sharing that with others. So it's a privilege. Now the door's open for us to come to this country, bring this training. We don't have to bring the gospel. The gospel's already there. We're just coming alongside of those who are carrying the gospel so that when the time comes when people around them in their circle of influence need healing, right? They're not dependent on the Western missionary thinking we're pioneering. The gospel's there. And the credibility with that local business leader who happens to be a pastor, when there needs to be healing, they know where to go. In fact, in this country, there's a rumor going around that the name of Jesus heals. So find a follower of Jesus to pray for you. And business helps bring that credibility. So we are incredibly grateful for this opportunity.
So you just returned from this country a little while ago. How many guys were in the training?
Yeah, so there was about 18, I think, that were handpicked to come to this training, but included in this group happened to be the top influencer of social media. He attended. He happens to be a believer as well. And then a couple of guests were invited for our closing pitches, one of which is one of the top entrepreneurs of the country who's building roads with recycled plastic. He was invited in, and he's a hero to the local people, and he just loved what we're doing. And as well as another entrepreneur networker who's got thousands of entrepreneurs in his circle of influence. And so he was there. He puts out a entrepreneurial tool to support those in his country. And what's important about this particular country is this is a critical need. Many of the young people are leaving by the thousands to go find work elsewhere. And so again, this is a felt need within this community. They need to up the business entrepreneurial game so that people can stay and support themselves rather than the drain that happens when young people leave their countries for greener pastures.
So what are the tips, or what are the foundations that you give a new entrepreneur to be successful in these countries?
Yeah, it's the bottom line is they need to know that God has created them to be the solvers for the needs of their communities. And that's what business does. It solves their problems, whether it's water, it's education, it's agriculture, it's protein, it's nutrition, it's cell phones that need to be fixed. They're the ones. And if we can help inspire that God created them to be creative, and then secondly, to begin thinking like an entrepreneur. So what are the problems in our community that can be solved through a product or service? Then we drill down with them, and we help them wrap a budget and about 14 different components of what it takes to run a business, including, who are your customers, who's your competition, what's your unique value proposition, character and integrity would be a part of that. Goal setting. So there's 14 different things that they learn to navigate and then thoroughly think through. And then they learn how to present or pitch that idea, because some of the funding, they need to be able to inspire others to partner with them. Instead of all of the money coming from the outside. It's not about the lack of money in starting a business in these countries. It's lack of a competent idea that's been thought through. We use the SWOT analysis, so they need to think through what are threats. So for instance, in some of these countries, in Kenya specifically, Uganda, they like to grow honey, and it's very well enjoyed by Europeans. So they're thinking, boy, there's an opportunity here. Well, you can just launch in, as you know, to doing hives, but what are the threats? And so if we can help them think through threats before they start business, they're already ahead of the game. So in Kenya, there's things like ants, right? That'll crawl up the pole that these hives are on, and if they get in, they can destroy the hive. Well, there's a simple solution to that, and it's a little ring on the base of the pole with oil. And if you can just have that simple barrier, you can save your hives. Or there's honey badgers. What do you do about honey badgers? Well, there's ways to protect it. Or what about elephants, right? So if we can think through these threats before we launch any business,
Elephants
then
eat
we can
honey?
help with success. What's that?
Elephants eat honey?
They're just tromping on through to get to the next place. So they don't eat the honey, but they leave a big swath of destruction in their wake wherever they go.
That's so interesting. And the bees out there are deadly.
Yeah. You want to be very careful. You don't want to stir them up at all. You don't want to get too close. You can hear them when they're starting to get nervous, and you just keep walking away. But they figured it out. They have ways to gently smoke and put them to sleep or whatever they do. But yeah, good for them.
Robin, how do you overcome many of because I know a lot of countries, they have cultural issues that just mitigate against, starting a business or the success of a business. It's not necessarily the start, but as soon as a business grows to that kind of next level, there's all sorts of cultural issues with that. How, do you guys talk through those? Is that some of your threat analysis as far as
Absolutely. And those are things they self-identify. But when it comes to cultural issues, we're not the experts. We come in with the universal business tools that we can lay down and walk them through, but we really rely on our local partner to talk through these things. And they're mind-blowing of what some of them are. Some of them are sabotage from jealous relatives, so they'll poison their chickens, or things like that. There's some cultural things that we would just shake our head at, but for communities like where we're at, they're just trying to survive. For instance, here's a good example. You have goats or something like that, and you see one of them has died in the field. You don't know what he's died from, but there's money laying on the ground there, and so you quickly go and cut it up or slaughter it and bring it to the butcher, and the butcher then, he doesn't know where this meat has come from or what the cause of its death was, so he'll then prepare it for customers. Customers then come from the community, buy it, and then get sick from whatever illness killed that animal, so much so that some may even die. And so it's our local person who has to speak into that and say, you guys know you are cheating, and when you do this, you are responsible for the sickness and death of those in your community, right? And they're like, oh, we were just thinking about our own profit, right? We're just trying to survive here. We weren't thinking about the consequences. So there's things like that where we just say, hey, local partner, when we're talking about cultural issues, whether it's time management or it's stealing from your business to pay for funeral expenses, you need to talk into these because you're the expert and they'll listen to you.
Good.
Well, that's interesting. What's the number one problem or the number one reason of failure that you see in business in these areas?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I think we can, look at ourselves and say, what are the problems why do businesses fail? So there's lack of capital, like helping a family over there with a few goats, that's nice, but that's not a business, right? That's a little bit of sustenance and milk on the table. So if we're thinking about a true business startup, you have to have enough capital on the table for profit to be generated and expenses to be paid. So lack of capital would be one. I think another one would be lack of proper planning. And Jesus talks about this, how we make fun of people who build a tower and it's halfway done, and you're thinking, well, what were you thinking building a tower and not preparing for your business plan? And that happens. But there's also, unfortunately, in some of these countries, things just don't work very well, so if the seasonal rains don't come, it could wipe you out. So they have to think through this in their SWOT analysis and think about water or electricity when it goes down. You could have an incubator that's doing 1,000 eggs and it looks good, but what happens if the power goes out? We have to think these things through. Then those cultural dynamics, like you talked about, sometimes the lack of getting your product to a market is a huge challenge. And sometimes it's the middleman that is the problem. So they will promise that they will come, they will buy all of their produce, whether it's tomatoes or oranges or something like that. And they will wait till the last minute. Their fruits or their crops are overripe now, and now the middleman will offer them, pennies for what it was worth, and it's just a perpetual cycle of failure. Or they're encouraged to grow something, so they'll grow one kind of crop, and then the market's flooded, and now there's no ability to get market value for that because there's just too much of it. So all of these things you need to think through. Specifically, is there going to be a customer at the end of the day? And but in those places, the customer can overpromise, and now you don't have a customer anymore. So you've spent all of this time and resource and energy to meet one customer's demands, and then they've found a better deal. So it's like, oh, this is really tough. It's not easy, and we can't think we can go in and solve these problems right away. But if we can partner with local people who have learned some of these intricacies, I think we can help with success a little better.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, business in missions is not a new thing, but it is certainly a growing movement. I think in the circles I came from, it was all about evangelism and church planting. Business wasn't on the table. But I think it's a different day when it comes to missions and how we need to rethink business in missions. So there's a spectrum, what we call BAM, business as mission. There's those of us who come from this culture and we think, if I can get into this closed country, I can't go as a missionary, but I can go as a business person. And I set up a business, I hire 20 or 30 people, and they become my parish, and I'm presenting Christ to them. It could be a Muslim country or others. That's great. That's great. We come in at a different end of that spectrum where we say, hey, God's workers or his people are already on the ground. How can we help them become successful so that they can do the work? And that's the part of the game that we play.
What is it that ELD solves?
Yeah, okay, so we're at the front end of this thing. We are saying God's people are already here, but the resources for them to accomplish the Great Commission is missing. All right, and one of the markers of a self-sustainable church planting movement is it's got to be self-funding. But they're working in communities, David, that are impoverished. So how do we solve this? Well, traditionally we got to go on tour of churches in the U.S. and raise as much money as we can, but the energy to do that is phenomenal, and it gets more difficult to raise those dollars because there's so much competition for those monies that are being given. So if we can flip it and say, what if we can help people create an economic lift within their community? Then they start tithing to the local church, or a pastor can support himself through his business, like being a caterer, or sheep or honey or any of these agricultural things in those communities. Then it's not dependent on us, and it's phenomenal. So
Yeah.
we're trying to break that model that when a Western person comes off the airplane, automatically there's an African counterpart who's looking for a financial partnership, right?
Yeah.
We need to break that and give dignity back to the local people to be their own solution, so that when that woman who started a business walks by her church, she can look at her neighbor and say, see that piece of metal on the roof? I did that. I gave to the church because I sold my butternut squash or whatever it is. We have one lady in Kenya who's growing so much butternut squash that the trucks from Nairobi are coming to get it.
Wow.
Right? We call her the queen of butternut squash. Tons and tons of this product that she figured out. I can do this. This is my idea, and she gets that credit to invest back into her community and her church.
What's your
I love
favorite
that you
business?
guys
Oh,
are.
sorry.
I was just saying, I love that you guys are going again, not to not to where the wealth is, but you're going to where poverty generally is, and helping establish God's kingdom in those places,
Yeah.
and uplifting the community. Like you said, BAM has a wide swath. Typically when it's west to the rest, it is to the cities. It is
Mhm.
to where the wealth is already concentrated. But at ELD, you flip that model. You're going to
Yeah.
the poor, to the villages, and
Yeah.
that's great.
It's high risk because the smaller the business is, and the less education there is, there's just more risk, right? But on the other hand, we've seen it work, that with proper knowledge and a tool, these people, they want to survive. They want to
Yeah,
take care of their children. They want to be able to send them to school. They've been selling things, for as long as there's been markets on the side of the corner. But have they been doing well? When you bring your product and everyone else has the same product. So one of the things we say is, what's your unique value proposition? What can you
sure.
do differently that everyone else isn't doing? And we've seen someone just with cabbage say, whoa, if I have different seeds, I can have cabbage that's this big, and they sell out in just a few hours, right?
Sure.
They just thought differently.
So, Robin, sorry, Dave, jumping in here on you. So, Robin, do you guys do? I mean, you do education, but do you do any microloans?
Yeah, we do, because that's one of the reasons businesses fail, is just lack of capital, right? And so we do that on a case by case business. We leave it up to our local person. So we'll do a training, let's say for 50 people in a community. And then we don't promise anything, though. That's one of the things, is that we want our local partner to have the responsibility and credibility of making it work in his community. So we'll say, we're coming to do this training. We do a 5-day training. Our partner on the ground is already modeling the way. He's got his own business. And then he can say, you guys go home, do your market research, come back in a couple of months with your business plan. We'll work through its viability, and I may have some funding for you. Okay. So what we'll do then is wait for that, and he'll come back and feed us, 3, 4, 5 businesses to say, hey, I think these are viable. They range from, we started at $500 in Kenya, because we just wanted to make sure our local person had that capability of distributing. The money gets into the ground, it's working, they're starting to pay back their loans. Then we went to the $1,000 level. We saw it working as well. So yes, we do provide microloans. We're seeing a great microloan repayment back to our local partner. And so we've helped support, just in Kenya with the Maasai, 18 businesses. We went back for a follow-up training this May, just to see, hey, how are those businesses doing? What's going on? He says, well, I got to tell you, there's just not 18 businesses. There's 150 businesses that are now going. And we're like, we had no idea.
Wow.
It comes to proper thinking, right? And then local mentorship is really helpful. So they're getting together, they're problem solving, they're sharing it with others, and it's just, we can step out. So that's our commitment. We'll go into a community, we'll do a training a few times, up to 3. And our goal is to get enough microloan funding on the ground where it's generating, and being repaid back, so that it could go out again. And then we're done. They're not dependent on us any longer. And hopefully by then there's enough proof of concept with local leaders that the doors will be open for the great amount of funding, by the millions that's already in Kenya. It's already there. There's microloan institutions, there's government programs, and now that they know it's working, they can access those funds. So that's our goal.
Great.
What's your favorite business that you guys have started up? Do you have one that's a favorite?
What's fun, David, is vicariously we could say we've started hundreds of businesses, you know. Honey's a fun one because I like, to see what happens. But the joy on their faces when they say, I am making profit from my business. I shared the honey nut squash lady or butternut squash lady with you. The joy was phenomenal. She was in tears saying thank you because now she can support her children. I think one of my favorite stories of how business can solve the local problem is Tom. We call him Tom the Tomato Man because his business plan was that he just needed hoses. He was already an agricultural expert. See, these people have access to education, right? So he had some certificate, and he just needed the hoses to get water from here to there. So we helped him with that. And he now has over 6 acres of passion fruit and tomatoes and green peppers. And again, the trucks are coming out to them to pick this stuff up. But what he did, David, is he looks at the kids running around, with no shoes on. They just don't wear shoes. And he says, I need to build a school. So he built a school out of brick for 50 kids. And then he feeds them breakfast and lunch every day. He pays their tuition and the salary for the teachers there. So he looks and he's meeting the local social need that he's identified. He gets the credit, not us, and that's what's beautiful about business, because again, he gets the dignity of meeting that need and the credibility with the local people that business can work. And he hires 9 people, and now he's expanded to other things like livestock as well. But to see them become the solution to the social or spiritual needs in their community through business is phenomenal. Just one other story just like that. We gave a small loan to a pastor who wanted to do agriculture, and it was tomatoes and cabbages. And I think it was like $500, right? He just needed seed. They have the labor ability. And we went and saw this project, but while there, we met one of the people who came as part of this agricultural co-op, and he happened to be the local drug dealer, opium, right? So he was invited in to this group, and he's like, what's going on with these people who are growing? And he helps, make the stakes for the tomatoes to grow up on. And he gives his life to Jesus, right? He shaves his dreadlocks, which was a sign of his authority in that drug world. And his wife is like freaking out saying, what happened to my husband? She gives her life to Jesus. 9 other people give their life to Jesus, including another drug dealer, right? And the pastor, his name is Omoding. He said to us, if you gave us this money for us to do a crusade, I don't know if we would have had this impact. But because you gave us this money, we put it in the ground. We invited others to join us in this business. We have seen this eternal result as this eternal impact as a result. Thank you.
That's a great story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a great story. So what can the audience help? How can the audience pitch in? How can they support ELD? What opportunities are out there?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have skills. If you're followers of Jesus, and you're a business person, you have skills that people in your community need. So we're working right here with Latinos. And when I can take a business person and say, you know what, you're more than just an usher or a greeter. You have skills that you can give to those in your community. So there's programs like this. Probably check it out. Look for the minorities within your community, number one. I think number 2, businessmen, if you have access to resources, don't throw money at things just because it could solve a problem overseas, right? Because we create so many problems. There's so many broken wells in Africa. All right. It's not about that, but teach people to do something with what they have first, and money comes later. Okay. Look for local partners who are already doing something along this line, and walk with them and maybe help them with their capacity. And then thirdly, if people want to get involved with helping to do a microloan, we send 100% of those funds to those places to get to work. So right now, for instance, in Uganda, there's a pastor. He's already started some chickens. He's learned how to do it. We're going to help him get to the next level, and that's $1,000. So when someone donates, we give $1,000 straight to that pastor. There's in Kenya, someone's doing hay because a couple of years ago there was a drought and millions of cattle died. They were carrying their cows
Wow.
in their arms to the market and got nothing for them. It was so bad. This was just 2 years ago. So the business idea is, hey, if we can grow grass and store it, then on these times, we'll be able to solve the problem of lack of feed. So she's doing a business. There's another pastor in Kenya doing sheep, an evangelist who wants to do bees in Kenya, and a lady who wants to build a church by raising cabbages. So it's beautiful. All of these business ideas, what we ask them is, what is the social impact you're going to do? They want to send their own people to school. They want to build churches. They want to support evangelists. So that's the way people can get involved, and we will get those funds to work when we know that the plan at least has a chance of viability and success.
Yeah, awesome.
That's awesome. And maybe we can match a couple micro loans. What do you think? Maybe we can match 3 micro loans, Dave, if we set
Sure.
up a giving program.
Sure. Yeah. All anybody needs to do is if you want to text ELD at 44321, we will make sure that all of that money goes straight to ELD for that microloan project. You can also go to mbridge.global /give or donate. I'm sorry, donate. And yeah, you'll see ELD on the list, and we'll make sure that those matching funds go straight to ELD and to the purpose.
Yeah, thank you guys. That's phenomenal, because when we get the money on the ground, we see people coming to Jesus, we see churches being built, and I think it's a different day in missions. We need, if we can come alongside of those local people to be that solution, I think God really smiles at that.
Yeah, I love it. I think you're doing a great work. I love the mission, the dream. I think it's awesome. I'm a believer. You guys are doing great work
Thanks,
out there. And how can anybody in the audience get in touch with you directly?
Yeah, you know what? They can email me at robin@eld.global. That's my email.
Well, that's
And
an easy one.
It is, isn't it? Robin@eld.global. Check our website out, eld.global. You can see some of those stories, and there's more on the website. And just begin to think through maybe the paradigm that we've been doing missions in the past, and maybe join us in this different way of solving this problem.
Are you guys on social media?
So here's the deal, is that I'm trying to figure this out, David, because I love posting stories, but inevitably I'll get someone who says, praise the Lord, how many people came to Jesus? And we're like, we're trying to get into these countries, which we're at, and if they can track us on social media and see these things, then it's like,
it's dangerous. You're kind of under the radar.
It can be dangerous. So I need to figure out how to turn off the ability for people to give me their wonderful thoughts and prayers, and just keep the stories out there. And we're able to do that on the website, and we're trying to get better at that on Facebook.
Okay, very cool. So don't track you down on social media. Don't hunt you down and post a bunch of things that you're just going to have to delete. Go to the website, dig deep, give. I love the mission. I love what you guys are building. I think as business owners in the community, it's important to touch the community. This is cool because there's a lot of, there's a lot of opportunity. This evangelist that wants to do the honey business.
Yeah.
How much do they need?
That honey business, he's asking for $2,700.
$2,700.
Yeah. So I'm going through that plan right now with our local person. We're saying, okay, how viable is it? Has he thought through all of his risks? What are his weaknesses? We're doing that SWOT analysis. Does he have the training? Where is he going to get his answers to the problems? Who is he being mentored by before we put this money on the table?
Okay, here's the deal. Our bees just died. We lost honey for hope. That was our business. Honey for Hope. We were going to do pollination, honey sales, and then the goal was to donate all the profit to charity, kingdom-driven charities. But we failed.
Or
Our
you
bees
learned
died.
something, didn't you?
Well, you learn a lot of things. And
You do.
some of those things might be don't get into the bee business. Some of those things, there's so many lessons. There's so many failures. I feel like in business, I'm going to fail way, way, way more than I ever succeed. But we are closing the bee business, and we have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in bees and labor and time and resources. But
let's take a trip.
We can use the remaining money that we have to support this $2,700 and start a bee business in another part of the world so that our bees don't die. They lived to support somebody else's bees.
Yeah. So here's the potential, David. Thank you for making that available. But we have probably 4 growers now of bees over there. They've learned a lot. They've learned how much smoke to put in the hives because that'll transfer over to the honey. So they're learning how to best extract that honey. But the potential for a honey co-op where we have many growers and then we can have one person who gets that honey to market at a very good quality, it's there. People are asking for this honey in Europe. They love Maasai honey, and it does tremendous for the environment there with the conservationists, really making it difficult for the traditional way of the Maasai to support themselves. So there's phenomenal potential for us to develop a serious honey co-op with the Maasai.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And where is this guy located at?
Yeah, so jump on a plane with me, David, and we'll go to Nairobi, and then we'll take about a 4-hour drive to the gateway of the Masai Mara, which is a pristine national park, place over there. You'll see some giraffes. You'll see the antelope and the water buffalo and the Pumbaa pigs and the lions. We got within 10 feet of the lions. I'm not kidding you. But here, the governor of the state we were at is so impressed with the businesses starting up that he welcomed us and put us up for a couple of nights in the Masai Mara. We couldn't believe it, but this is a big deal for business to be generating, and then it starts to impact other businesses. We only took one night there because we had to go research and see how these businesses were going. But on the way out of Kenya, a member of parliament says, please stop by. And so we went to the capital in Nairobi. And while there, he says, I know these people who are starting businesses. These are my constituents and my neighbors. Thank you for what you're doing for them. What can I do for you? And I said, and you don't need to do anything for us, but your people need water, right? They need water in these places because these women are going 2-3 hours to find drinking water. And by the time they come back, there goes your working day, right? Number 2, they need access to capital. And he says, we have programs, we'll make it available. That was very, awesome. Very special.
You're doing a great job. Dave, when are you going to be getting on that plane to become Ambassador Lundquist instead of Pastor Lundquist?
Yeah, I'd love to.
That's good. All right, there. That's it. I'm out of the picture. I don't have to fly anywhere. Dave's on the ambassador trip. We donated the money. This is a great place to end the show before any more commitments get made. This has been the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere in social. We're hanging out. Drop a comment in the comments box. We'll get back to you. Give us a like. Give us a share. We're back 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every Tuesday. I got to get this thing done quick. We'll see you guys later. No more commitments. Dave's going to Uganda, India, Nairobi, Robia. I don't know. He's going to have a great time. Thank you for joining the show.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.